In the last discussion, I brought up the idea that the Piraeus, the setting of the work, has bearing on the meaning of the dialogue. Just as in any work, the setting is going to have bearing. You know, if you have Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? Goldilocks goes into the middle of the forest, the realm of chaos and disorder, the tangle of the mind. Red Riding Hood goes through the forest. It makes a difference. In the Gospels, for instance, Christ in one Gospel gives a sermon on the Mount. In another Gospel, he gives a sermon on a plain, a level plain. In the third, he gives the sermon in a boat, sitting in the water to people on the shore. Each time the setting has bearing on what the author intended. So in this case, the setting has bearing on what Plato intends for his audience to glean from the work itself. Piraeus has numerous attributes to it which constitute, to some degree, a realm like Hades. Its name means entrance over the chasm. It is a port city historically, and a salt mine historically. It's a fortress at one point. It has various different languages and cultures and religions, a polyglot of some sort. It has crime, a red light district. It smells, it's cramped, it's near the water, it smells like fish and probably gar. So it is in many ways physically a Hades situation. Additionally, to move from Acropolis, which represents Olympus, the high place, heaven, the lawgiver, down to the Piraeus, it represents a descent, right? And also geographically, it is the last land point before one crosses the Mediterranean into Egypt, the land of the dead. So in many ways, the Piraeus, the setting, represents Hades, the underworld. That then harkens to the idea that this story is representative of any other descent into the underworld. And we notice that the story of Socrates in the Republic is similar to the story of Odysseus in the descent into the underworld that he does in the earlier part of the work, as well as the descent later on as a masked beggar. He descends into the underworld, the land of the dead, in order to infiltrate into Ithaca and destroy the many-headed dragon of the suitors. That resembles a story earlier from Egypt, the story of the sun god, Ra, who traverses the sky every day, and then when he sets, goes into the world, the underworld, defeats a many-headed dragon named Apep, and then rises again in the morning. And this story is a story which dominates Western culture. It is all over the Western culture in some form or another. The story of resurrection, of the hero defeating the many-headed dragon of darkness, and rising again. So here we have, in this story, Socrates descending into this underworld with a many-headed dragon that on the one hand seems to be the 10 men that he works with, that he talks with at this dinner party. Notice there's more to this as well. In this opening, Socrates says, I went down to the Piraeus yesterday with Glaucon, son of Ariston, to pray to the goddess. So notice he goes down to the Piraeus, and he does so. Why? It's not in order to find people that will listen to him. It's not in order to get with the common man. This is not an advocacy for democracy or some sort of plebiscite of some kind. He's actually suggesting that he goes down to the Piraeus in order to see this festival of the goddess Bendis. And in that festival, he says, I wanted to pray to the goddess, and I wanted to observe how they would put on the festival, since we're now holding it for the first time. It's a new thing that's come to the Piraeus. Piraeus frequently had various people coming in bringing new religions from various parts of the Mediterranean. And as the population grew, they would want to celebrate their religion, much the same way as happens now, for instance, in California, Southern California, or New Mexico, Arizona, where there's a lot of Mexican influence from the immigrants that have come over. In Piraeus, they were celebrating this goddess, Bendis, and her tradition. Now, why would that be at all important? Well, fortunately, Alan Bloom, our translator, has a fairly decent, I think, footnote on the festival of Bendis in the back of the book. So we'll look at that really quickly. And it says here that this goddess in the festival of Bendis. It says Bendis was a foreign goddess. She was related to the moon by the Thracians, who worshipped her. The Piraeus seems to have been a center for innovations in everything, including religion. So she's related to the moon. What Bloom doesn't say in his note, which is significant, is that she is, on the one hand, by the Thracians, related to Artemis, the huntress goddess, the moon, but she's also Bendis, a goddess who is similar to Persephone, the goddess who in myth is taken down to the underworld by Hades. The myth goes that she's playing in the fields, Persephone is, and Hades sees her, is attracted, and he drives up with his chariot, and he grabs her, and he takes her down into the underworld, and all her girlfriends are, run away. And her mother, Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, is distraught and can't find her daughter anywhere, and wanders the earth looking for her. And while she does so, neglects the harvest, the seasons, and cold comes upon the world, and it won't go away, and the harvest fails, people are starving. The gods see this, and they realize something must be done. So they tell Hades, look, you've got to let this girl go. You've got to let Persephone go. And so Demeter, then finding out that her daughter is in Hades, goes to the underworld and pleads for her daughter. And Hades says, finally, okay, she may go her way. But before she goes, she can have some refreshment. And he gives her a pomegranate seed. She takes a bite. And whenever you eat the food of the dead, the food of the underworld, there's a problem, because that means that you are beholden to the nourishment that the underworld offers. You have a bit of underworld in you, so to speak, realm of the dead in you, rather than the realm of the alive. And Persephone eating the pomegranate then is, to some degree, trapped in the underworld. And so Hades and Demeter break a deal with each other. Demeter will get Persephone for part of the year, and Hades will get her for the other part of the year. And so that's why the Greeks say we have winter and we have summer. Because when Persephone is with her mom, Demeter, everything's rosy and happy and warm. The sun is shining, and the crops are growing. While she's with Hades, Demeter is sad, the world turns cold. There's a lot of connection going on in those stories, of course, in that mythology. Demeter is the goddess of the harvest, but also the goddess of change and alteration, renewal, resurrection. Very similar to Ra. When she's with her daughter, the sun is at its zenith. We have the summer solstice, which is where the sun is at its full strength. Ra is at his full strength. In the winter time, the sun is at the lowest ebb, that is the winter solstice. So Ra is in the underworld, metaphorically. Demeter is the goddess of change, alteration. She was the goddess who was the central goddess of what's called the Eleusinian mysteries. We know for sure that Plato knew about these mysteries, and he brings up the Eleusinian mysteries throughout his dialogues. Those mysteries devoted to Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, the goddess of renewal and change, the goddess, to some degree, of the sun, but not entirely, they were based in the city of Eleusis, hence the Eleusinian mysteries. And they influenced people like Pythagoras, the mathematician, as well as Plato. And Plato took Pythagoras' ideas and the ideas of the Eleusinian mysteries and put them in there. And so consequently, in this story, we have a reference in the goddess Bendis, although it's under a mask, see? It's wearing a mask. Nevertheless, the reference in the goddess Bendis is to Persephone, queen of the underworld, the daughter of Demeter, the goddess of change and alteration and resurrection.